Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in Death Card Tactics I'm going to be looking at the Drukhari, the Ravagers and the Raiders, the flying pirate ships, let's say here. And I know they are equipped with these dark lances, and this could be a potent weapon versus Death Guard. So how good are the Ravagers and Raiders compared to Death Guard units, and how can we face them? So let's take a look. So today, the 24th of April, lockdown situation improving here. So restaurants opening in Denmark. So really looking forward to hopefully go to a restaurant again, first time in 2021. So let's see if we remember how to behave in restaurants. But going to the topic of this video, I have been with a new release of the release of the new codex for Drukhari. I've been starting to read into this. And Drukhari seem to be a fast and dangerous army, quite opposite to Death Guard, and with some tools that can be quite anti-Death Guard, like poison weapons and so on. In this video, I'm starting the review with the commonly used Drukhari units, the Raider transports and the Ravager heavy supports. So in this video, I will be briefly looking at Drukhari general army rules, the stats and the weapons for the Raider and the Ravager, the damage potential across the targets I'm typically simulating to see how effective are they compared to other units I've analyzed so far, looking at, let's say, a sort of Hall of Fame. Then I'm looking specifically how does those units do damage versus Death Guard units, and then how do in return how do different Death Guard units do damage against the Ravager or the Raider. So, disclaimer: I'm not an expert in Drukhari. I'm not claiming to be, but so I would appreciate any feedback and suggestions for example, combos and synergies and added rules. Maybe I've misinterpreted some rules, so please give me some pointers here for the Drukhari, as their codex is quite complex. So before I start, big thanks to my patrons. Thank you for your continuous support and guidance. So with no further ado, let's get started. So starting off with some general Drukhari rules. So Drukhari's new codex seems to be score highly on the complexity scale, let's say, and Drukhari, they consist of three subfunctions, the Cabals, the Witch Cults, and the Homunculus Coven, and they all have HQ units and troops and traits and abilities specific for those factions. And then normally the Drukhari can take only one faction per detachment, but they can have several patrols, not paying for the command point cost, as I understand. So they could combine different patrols with a Cabal, Witch Cult, and Homunculus Coven, for example. And now they have the new possibility to make a real space raid force, where these factions are combined under certain rules. They have to have a certain HQ choices and one troop of each, etc. The Drukhari also have an interesting army-wide ability, the Power from Pain, which is a cumulative thing that basically all the units get per round. So in the first round, all the units have a 6+ invul save. Then on the second turn, this is quite interesting. The units will be all the units can declare a charge after they have advanced, and then it's cumulative with a 6+ invul save. Then they get better when they can make a melee attack. They get +1 to hit, and vehicles don't suffer the penalty to shooting heavy weapons in engagement range. Then in the fourth round, they get a 5+ invul save for all units, and then in the fifth turn, they automatically pass morale tests. So this is some good ones, and basically not super many of those apply on the Raiders and the Ravagers. Let's say being already, for example, having 5+ invul saves. But let's look at the stats now for the units. So the Raider and the Ravager, they have basically the same profile. It seems like the Ravager only has one additional wound, and they look the same. Let's say the units. If we see the Raider, it has 10 wounds, and the movement profile is 14 inches, and then it can bracket to 10 inches and 6 inches. They have a 4+ weapon skill, 3+ ballistic skill, strength 6, toughness 6, 3 attacks, degrading with the wounds, 7 leadership, and a 4+ save. The Ravager has basically the same stats, it just has more wounds, and they are both fast fly units. With the 14-inch certainly helps to transport the troops or to fly around the table. And they have a 3+ ballistic skill to be able to shoot their cannons, and a 5+ invul save for both units. The Raider can transport 11 Drukhari infantry units, and this is very nice. I mean, I wish also our Rhino could do that, because 11 is good. You can have a full squad of 10 troops, for example, and then you can have a supportive character. With our Rhino, with a 10 unit limit, you need to take a not a, let's say, a max troop, and then if you want to have support units. And also the Raider is open topped, so units can that are embarked can shoot normally. So that's really good for protecting the Drukhari toughness 3 shooting troops. And the Raider can be chosen to either belong in a coven, a cult, or a cabal, and the Ravager is belonging to the cabal. Looking at the weapons and the gear that the Raider and the Ravager can have. Starting with the weapons, the Dark Lance is the standard weapon. The Ravager has 3 Dark Lances, and the Raider has 1 Dark Lance. So this is a heavy 1 weapon with a 36-inch range, strength 8, AP -4, and the damage is the really good one, D3+3, and this is good against the Death Guard, for example, because even with the -1 from Disgusting Resilience, you still have good damage going through, minimum of 3 damage when shooting a Death Guard unit. The Dark Lances can be replaced with a Disintegrator Cannon for 5 points more. It's a heavy 3 weapon, 36-inch range, strength 5, AP -3, and damage 2, which seems like a good anti-marine type of weapon with more shots, a bit. The strength is 5, good AP and damage 2, but this is not super good against Death Guard, of course. Damage 2 becoming damage 1 with Disgusting Resilience. They can take a Phantasm Grenade Launcher on top for +5 points. It's an Assault T3 weapon with a shorter range, 18-inch. It's a blast weapon, and this is a special weapon. So each hit roll, for each hit you roll 2d6, and if it's higher than the leadership unit, the leadership of the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So it's like a special mortal wound weapon that is good against low leadership enemies. And then the melee weapon, the standard is the Blade Veins. So it's a melee weapon with strength +1, so basically strength 7, AP -1, and damage 1. So nothing super fancy melee-wise, but a good lance anti-vehicle and a good anti-marine disintegrator cannon. On top of that, they can take some gear. So there is the Chain Snares for 5 points, which adds 3 attacks in melee. The Grisly Trophies for 5 points is an aura where within 3 inches of the Ravager or Raider, the enemy models suffer 2 leadership. So that's good, probably combined with his Phantasm Grenade Launcher. The Shock Pro for 5 points also gives access to a stratagem to deal mortal wounds when charging. So this could be interesting for a special build. And then the Raider can have Splinter Racks for 10 points. And this allows the embarked models that are shooting with rapid fire weapons to double shoot with them as they were in half range. So as I said, standard equipment is the Ravager has 3 Dark Lances and the Blade Veins, and it's costing 140 points, and it could replace the Lances with Disintegrator Cannons. The Raider has 1 Dark Lance and Blade Veins. It can replace the Lance with 1 Disintegrator Cannon, and they can take additional gear and Phantasm Grenade Launcher. And then the Splinter Ranks are only for the Raider, and I guess that is subject to what type of troops are inside. If they are rapid fire weapons, could be an interesting option. So let's look at the damage output of the Ravager, point corrected here to 100 points. So we see here the blue is the Ravager shooting the 3 Dark Lances at 24 inches, and the orange, if it's using 3 Disintegrator Cannons, then it would be costing 155 points. Yeah, the orange line, and then the gray is the melee attack, and then the yellow is if we gave it 3 more attacks. So the gray is 3 attacks, and the yellow is 6 attacks basically, and yeah, basically it's double the damage here. For 5 points more. So we can see here in this graph you can see the damage output per 100 points, average number of wounds corrected to 100 points on this side, and here you have 31 different targets I'm usually calculating in my models. So you have different targets, from targets with very good invul saves like Custodes with a shield or Gilliman. Here we have targets with 4+ invul saves. Here we have targets with 5+ invul save like an Imperial Knight or Gene Stealer, toughness 4 unit here. Here we have the targets without invul saves, with saves here starting from 2+, 3+, 4+, etc. And some of the models have 1 wound and some have multiple wounds. And what we can see here is that the Dark Lance is better as expected versus tough multi-wound opponents. So these vehicles here, for example, the Lance is definitely better than the Disintegrator Cannon. The Disintegrator Cannon is better versus infantry, especially, for example, 2-wound Marines like Intercessors here. They are doing, it's basically an anti-intercessor weapon, this Disintegrator Cannon. The melee damage output, as you can see, is low compared to the shooting damage, even adding the 3 attacks from the chain snares. But the Ravager and Raider, even if they don't do super much in melee, it could be useful because they are so fast. You could fly them around the opponent and maybe lock some of their shooting units in melee, so they have to fall back or maybe only shoot at this engagement range. But other than that, they are not a melee type of unit. So here is the summary, the damage output configuration for the Raider and the Ravager. So here we see the Ravager with the Dark Lances, 140 points. The shooting damage it can do across all the 31 targets, point corrected, 2.5 wounds on average. The same at half range, and in melee it's only a little bit. Here we see if we add the snares, and here we see with the Disintegrator Cannon. So the Dark Lances overall seems to be the better weapon and the cheaper option for the Ravager. For the Raider, we see the damage per 100 points. Of course, it's a cheaper model. It has some, again, the Dark Lance is better than the Disintegrator Cannon in this overall across the 31 targets I'm usually simulating. And here we can see in melee again the snares, etc. doesn't do super much damage here. So the Ravager is doing some decent range damage. Also the Raider, considering that this is a transport unit that can also allow its own embarked units to shoot. So a combined Raider with some shooty type of Drukhari infantry, that would be a quite good combo. So as I said, the units are not melee specialists. However, with a high mobility, they could be used to tie down ranged special opponents. The snares add 3 attacks for 5 points. And the shock prow for 5 points could be used to deal mortal wounds with a stratagem here. So the stratagems, if you charge an enemy vehicle unit, you on a 2+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. And if it's not a vehicle unit, you roll 1d6 for each model in that enemy unit that is in engagement range, and for each dice result that equals or exceeds the enemy toughness, the unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So on average, if you charge a vehicle with a Raider with a shock prow, you would be doing 1.7 mortal wounds, so not bad. And if you especially if you're charging some big units of infantry with low toughness and you can come close to many models, here probably it's not so probably you can get within 20 of them, but if you could, then you would be toughness 4 infantry, you would be doing 6 mortal wounds. Toughness 3 infantry, you could be doing up to 10 mortal wounds. You just need a 4+ to deal mortal wounds. So yeah, this shock prow seems like an interesting added gear thing that can increase the melee and the charging efficiency of the Raider and Ravager. So here I'm comparing the damage to a Hall of Fame with other units I've been analyzing. So here I'm looking at the 24-inch shooting. with no other buffs, and this is the average damage per 100 points across the 31 targets I was showing in the graph a couple of slides ago. So here we see the best unit I've analyzed so far. The most efficient for points are the Eradicators, so they can do 4 wounds on average per 100 points. Here we have the some of the best, let's say, Death Guard units is the Contemptor with the 2x Twin Culverin, the Plaguebear Scroller here with Entropy Cannon and Slugger below the Eradicators. Here we have the Ravager coming in the seventh spot here with the 3 lances doing 2.5 wounds per 100 points, and Disintegrator Cannon is lower than the Ravager. Here we see the Ravager is better per point than a Furtive Blowthorn with a Blight Launcher, or a Hellbrute, or a Mephitic Blightholder, or a Land Raider. And here we see the Raider is further down the line, but still on the list, let's say, and the Raider is a transport unit, so that it has some damage at long range is of course helpful. So let's now look if the Ravager and the Raider are doing damage versus Death Guard units. So as I said, the Dark Lance is a potent threat for characters and vehicles, and our Terminators with a D3+3, even with a -1 Disgusting Resilience, if we don't save if we don't save the shot, then the Terminator will be killed. And of course, a D3+3 one-shot weapon is not efficient versus chaff infantry like Poxwalkers. The Disintegrator Cannon with a damage 2 is, as I said, not a good anti-Death Guard weapon, as the damage will be coming 1, and yeah, not the best here. And here you can see the Ravager shooting 3 Dark Lances and the Raider shooting 1 Dark Lance at the various units across the Death Guard roster. So Mortarion, the Demon Prince, Typhus, etc. Here we have the Plague Marines, Poxwalkers. Here we have our Terminators, Blight Lords of Deathshroud. And you can see here how many wounds will we expect to be made by 3 Dark Lances. So for example, something that would take quite a lot of wounding would be a Chaos Rhino. It doesn't have an invul save, so the Ravager would be able to severely damage a Chaos Rhino. The Plaguebear Scroller is more safe because it has a toughness 8 and it has a 5+ demonic save, and you can see here from various other units. So the Ravager should be able to do a couple of wounds on average on our demon engines and vehicles, and especially, as I said, Hellbrute and Chaos Rhino will be getting quite severely wounded. And of course, watch out, for example, our Virion characters and the Plaguecaster. They don't have invul saves. If they can be targeted by Dark Lances, they would be, let's say, killed in 1 round of shooting. So the Ravager here could maybe utilize its high maneuverability to get access to targets. They can maybe fly over our line and find some exposed Virion to shoot at. So take care about that. And finally, here we see the Death Guard units now firing back at the Raider and the Ravager, or Raider or Ravager here. So here we see again a variety of Death Guard units shooting at the Raider or Ravager. Basically, it doesn't matter here. For this analysis, they have the same type of toughness and invul saves, etc., and armor save. So here we can see how many wounds, for example, Mortarion, how many wounds would he be able to do at 24-inch range? Of course, he can't shoot at 24-inch range. At 12-inch range, with his pistol, he would only be doing 1.5 wounds on the Raider or Ravager, but in melee, he would be able to take it out with a eviscerating blow, 22 wounds. Of course, it could kill two Raiders or two Ravagers in one go. And then we see, yeah, so you have here all the targets, all the units, and all the expected wounds. So the best units that can take out Raiders and Ravagers or severely wound them at long range are the Contemptor with Volkites. So Contemptor with 2 twin Volkites and no other buffs would be doing 7 wounds on average. bracketing the Raider or Ravager so they cannot fly their 14 inches. Also, Plagueburst Crawler with Entropy and Cannon can do 6.5 wounds, again leading to a bracket. 2 Plagueburst Crawlers should be able to take out a Ravager. And of course, if we have, for example, some buffs on the Contemptor or some other units, they could be doing more damage than this. So this is the unbuffed damage. So at least we should bracket them down to 10 inches. In melee, there are several units here that can take out a Raider or Ravager in one round of go. For example, Mortarion, he can do a lot of wounds. Plague Marines, with all melee weapons, with the flails and cleavers, they can basically also do 20 wounds against a Raider or Ravager. The Death Shroud here, they can kill 5 Death Shroud here, they can kill a Raider and a Ravager. And the Possessed also can almost kill, 10 Possessed could kill a Ravager here. The most point efficient way, the Chaos Spawn can do a really lot of damage here. Down here you can see the damage corrected by 100 points of the Death Card unit. So some of the most efficient units are the Chaos Spawn. They can really do a lot in melee damage. If they can come close and lock them down and bracket them in melee. Otherwise, a Defiler is quite interesting with a combined, let's say, the combined efficiency of shooting and melee here with a Rapier autocannon and the Scourge. It can do a little bit of wounds in the shooting, but quite a lot of wounds in the melee. So it's quite efficient here. The Hellbrute again can also do something, but it's probably it's not so durable unit. And the Furtive Blowthrown with the Mower and the Death Shroud and the Plague Marines are all quite good units to take out the Ravagers, of course, if we can come close to melee. So, reaching to the summary and final thoughts of this video, the Drukhari Ravagers and Raiders are very fast flying units with high utility, I think, for the Drukhari. Equipped with these Dark Lances, the D3+3 damage, they can be a threat to Death Card vehicles and exposed characters. They have their very high movement, and they have also, on top of this, Drukhari shenanigans, and enabling them maybe to move, shoot, and move again. They could be disappearing from the board, coming into reserves, and then coming back again with some stratagems. The Raiders, hands down, are very good transports, also allowing the troops to shoot while inside, being protected, and with this high mobility. And although they are not very strong in melee, they can be used to charge and lock down some of our vehicles. So I was thinking maybe the Raider could move disembark their units, and maybe they could charge a Plagueburst Crawler, trying to lock it down for maybe losing a turn of efficient shooting. Also, with a 5+ invul save, they're quite durable. The Death Card long-range weaponry, like Plagueburst Crawlers with Entropy Cannon and Contemptors with Twin Volkites, can wound them and bracket them from a distance. In melee, several Death Card units can take them out. However, it's not easy to get close to these fast units. If your opponent doesn't want you to come close, it can be difficult. So, yeah, good luck chasing a 14-inch moving flying unit with 5-inch Marines. So I think maybe best utility would be to bracket them from the distance and then make them slower, and then try to come into melee, or just keep shooting at them until they are taken out. But of course, in the meantime, they can also do some quite good damage on the Death Card vehicles. So with these words, this concludes the video. What do we think about the Ravagers and the Raiders? As I said, I'm not an expert in Drukhari, so any Drukhari players, please feel free to comment, give your input to this analysis, and for example, what would be your favorite troops to have inside the Raiders to add to the shooting. And if you like this video, please press like and subscribe to the channel, where I will be bringing you more videos on Death Card, more math hammer of various Warhammer fractions and units. And if you want to support my efforts further, please visit my Patreon page. And with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.